Hi, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about an extraordinary development in the war in Iran, which could have massive implications for the global economy. As you'll be aware, Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum to Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, originally setting the deadline for Monday the 6th of April. But what we're now seeing is a significant escalation, not just in terms of military positioning, but also in terms of the rhetoric, tone, and frankly the level of pressure that is now being applied. In today's video, we're going to look at an extraordinary post made by Donald Trump on his Truth Social platform, which gives us a very clear indication of where this situation is heading and why this could spell potential disaster for the global economy. But before we get into all of that, could I ask anybody that hasn't subscribed yet to please hit that subscribe button? It really does help me with the algorithm. It only takes you a second of your time, and I'm also trying to get towards 500,000 subscribers. So if you could help out, I'd really appreciate it. Right, let's get into the detail. So this post was made by Donald Trump. I'm going to read it out word for word. Well, I might miss out some of the words because YouTube will probably ban me if I say them, but I want to go through it. This is what he posted. Tuesday will be power plant day and bridge day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the bleep strait, you crazy bleep, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. Now, I think it's fair to say this is an extraordinary statement. And the key part of that statement, the part that really stands out, is the phrase, open the bleep strait, you crazy bleep. Because that's not normal diplomatic language. This is not the sort of language you expect from a world leader. And I think that raises a number of really important questions. Firstly, why is a world leader using this kind of language in official communication? This isn't a private conversation that was caught on a hot mic. This isn't something that's been leaked. This is something that has been deliberately written, published and pushed out to the world. It's aggressive, it's confrontational, and it's laced with expletives. Now that in itself tells us something, because when you see this kind of language being used at the highest level, it usually indicates frustration. It suggests that things are not going according to plan. Because if everything was under control, if the strategy was working, if Iran was responding in the way that the US expected, you wouldn't need to resort to this kind of messaging. So what this tells us is that Iran is not backing down, Iran is not complying, and the USA is becoming increasingly frustrated with that situation. The second point here is that this kind of language is inflammatory, because when you publicly insult another country in this way and use phrases like you crazy bleep, you're effectively escalating the situation. You're making it more difficult for the other side to back down, because if Iran backs down after being spoken to like this, it risks looking weak. And in geopolitics, perception is everything. So this kind of language can actually make the diplomatic solution harder to achieve. The third point here is the reference to praise be to Allah. Now again, this is highly unusual. World leaders typically avoid religious references in geopolitical threats because of how sensitive those issues are. So the inclusion of that phrase adds another layer of complexity to this situation. Now the other key takeaway from this post is that the deadline appears to have shifted. We were originally talking about Monday the 6th of April, however we're now talking about Tuesday the 7th. So effectively the deadline has been extended, not officially, but from reading that message it has been. But alongside the extension, the threat has been made more explicit. We are now talking about targeting power plants and bridges. So this is critical infrastructure. It's not just military targets, missile bases. This is infrastructure that supports the functioning of the country. And if those assets are targeted, the consequences could be enormous, because if the USA follows through on this threat, Iran is almost certain to retaliate. And that retaliation is likely to focus on energy infrastructure across the Middle East. And we're already seeing signs of that. Over the last 24 hours, there have been further reports of attacks on energy-related facilities in the region, specifically around Kuwait. And according to estimates coming out of Israel, Iran still has around 1,000 ballistic missiles left in its arsenal. Now that is a huge stockpile, and those missiles have the potential to cause significant damage. Now this is where things become very serious for the global economy, because if Iran starts targeting oil and gas infrastructure, we're not just talking about a regional issue, we're talking about a global supply shock. And as we've discussed many times before on the channel, energy infrastructure is extremely complex. These are not facilities that you can simply switch off and then switch back on again a few days later. If an upstream oil facility is damaged where oil is extracted from the ground, it can take months or even years to fully restore production. In some cases, the damage can actually be permanent. So we're talking about a potential long-term reduction in global supply. And when you combine that with steady or rising demand, the result is very simple. Prices go up, and they can go up very quickly. So in a worst case scenario, we could be looking at oil prices reaching levels we've never seen before. $150, maybe even $200 per barrel is not unrealistic in a severe escalation. Diesel prices will also surge, gas prices will spike, and this feeds directly into the global economy because energy is the foundation of everything. If energy prices rise, transport costs rise. If transport costs rise, the cost of goods rise. If the cost of goods rises, inflation increases. And when inflation increases, central banks are forced into difficult decisions. Do they raise interest rates to control inflation, which slows down economic growth, or do they allow inflation to run, which erodes purchasing power? Either way, it creates economic instability. And that's why this situation has the potential to trigger a major global economic shock, potentially even a global recession. And the key point here is that this is not a natural disaster. This is not something that was unavoidable. This is a man-made situation. Now, there is another angle to this discussion, which is the justification for the USA's involvement. Some people have sent me messages arguing that this is about preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons. And that's obviously a very serious concern otherwise. But there is a contradiction here because in the summer of 2025, the USA carried out strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. And at that time, it was widely reported that those facilities had been completely destroyed. So the question is, if those facilities were destroyed, how are we being told that Iran is now closer than ever to developing a nuclear weapon? Those two narratives don't really align. And that raises questions about the underlying reasoning for the current escalation. Now, alongside all of this, there is a more positive development. There are reports of ongoing discussions between the USA and Iran's foreign minister regarding a potential 45-day ceasefire. Now, those talks have apparently been taking place through the night, and if a ceasefire can be agreed, that would clearly be a positive outcome for everybody because it would reduce the immediate risk of escalation. Now, if we look at what's happening in the markets, I think it's interesting that they appear to be relatively calm. We haven't seen a massive spike in oil prices yet. We haven't seen a major sell-off in global equity markets, and that suggests that investors remain optimistic. They're still pricing in the possibility of a ceasefire. But here's the risk. If that ceasefire doesn't materialize, if the USA follows through on its threats, if Iran retaliates, then the markets will need to reprice very quickly. And when that happens, the moves could be very sharp. So where does all of that leave us? Well, right now we are on the brink. We are on the brink of either a diplomatic breakthrough or a major escalation that could have severe consequences for the global economy. And the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be absolutely critical because what happens next will likely determine the direction of energy prices, financial markets, and potentially the global economy for the rest of 2026. So I'll keep you posted on any further news and developments as and when they occur. Hopefully you found today's video useful, informative, and most importantly, thought-provoking. If you've liked what I've said, or maybe you didn't like it, but you thought it was interesting, then please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Don't forget, I'm currently running a competition where you can win my property or a cash alternative prize. Please scan the QR code on the screen now or click the link in the description below. If you'd like to get involved, it's another way of helping fund the channel. Thank you so much to everyone that supported me in other ways. If you've bought me a coffee or sent me a YouTube super thanks or signed up as a patron or a member, I really appreciate that support. Thank you so much. Also, I'd like to mention that the latest Joe and Naz video is now live. This is a fun venture, it's exciting, and hopefully will put a long-lasting smile on your face. That's what I'm trying to do. A bit of food, fun, and banter in every video. But we do need your support because we're just starting out and we need some more subscribers and more views. So if you could do us a favor by heading over watching that video, subscribing to the channel, maybe watching some of the other videos just to boost our watch time. That would be hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. You'll see a link at the end of this video that takes you straight through to the Gordon Ramsay plain food video. It's quite entertaining. I think you'll like it. Please check it out. And here's something else to put a smile on your face.